All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Canada Hoops. It's your boy, Maddie. Thank you for your continued support. Please keep downloading and sharing us. Visit our YouTube channel. Hit us up on Instagram and X.com. Our guest today represents Orleans, Ontario. She is a former St. Peter Knight, Vermont Catamount, and is currently an assistant coach for the Fresno State Bulldogs. And of course, she was a 2012 Olympian for Canada basketball with the senior women's national team. She is Courtnay Pilyapaitis. Courtnay, thank you so much for joining us on Canada Hoops.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, and I know it's been a busy kind of spot in the season for you, end of season, and lots going on. But yeah, how are things? Just let our listeners and the Canada basketball community know how you're doing, just kind of where you're at right now.
Yeah, like you said, I'm assistant coach at Fresno State for the women's basketball team, and I just finished my fourth season. So, I'm excited. I love it out here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I kind of moved from the East Coast. I've just finished now 11 years of coaching, which has been kind of crazy. It overlapped with the end of my playing career with Canada basketball, and I was lucky enough to kind of do both for 2 years, and then I obviously retired and got into coaching full time. So, we're out here in Fresno. We're trying to build a program, and I love it. I'm learning every day, and I think that's kind of the most important thing.
What like you touched on a couple points I want to ask about, like the coaching aspect. Was that always something you envisioned for yourself? Like that was like the trajectory?
Yeah, my dad coached me growing up. And I think that kind of just made me kind of like a coach's daughter and
Yeah.
really kind of dive into the X's and O's, and I loved it. And one of the biggest things I think that took me far in my playing career was just my IQ. And so I always kind of knew I wanted to do it. I didn't know when. Obviously, I played overseas a couple years, played with the national team, and then I was lucky enough to get an opportunity at my alma mater, University of Vermont, to start coaching. And so I kind of like had to weigh this, do I want to play a couple more years? When do you get to kind of just hop into an assistant coach role instead of, going through like video coordinator or Dobo or anything like that. And so
Right.
I took the job with all intentions of retiring after 2012. And then Lisa Tomitis, when she got the job, she kind of reached out and we talked about it a little bit, and I talked to my boss and kind of figured out how I could, do both, which was challenging at times. And I was really happy that I kind of continued for the next, couple of years to play. But coaching always was something that I loved. And as soon as I got into it, I knew kind of this is where I wanted to be. It's a lot. There's a lot of, not so many days off, and you miss some personal things at times, and I'm far from my family right now, but I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
What like your head coach there, like you have to obviously work like alongside them and under them and what they're trying to do in terms of a philosophy and approach. Like what's your personal approach and philosophy as a coach? Like there's aspects of the team you're trying to like influence and help grow. Like what's your mindset as an assistant?
Yeah, I think you always have to kind of balance that, like your personal, you're not always going to agree with what the other assistants might think or what the head coach thinks. But I think honestly, it's always come back to me just working hard and being transparent and being exactly who you are, and that will get you far. I mean, that could be said for anything, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think the players that I've coached have appreciated that, and just being able to be where you are and kind of just help navigate the world we're in. I think coaching, since I've started coaching, has changed drastically with NIL and everything like that. And so I think the more honest and transparent you can be as a coach, I think that just goes a long way because it's always changing. And I've always said I had a really good experience in college, and I got to play a lot and experience a lot, which only helped me when I got to, my professional career. And so I've always said that, I want to be that for the players that we have, and that I've coached. And, just like I said, just going back to hard work and being who you are, I think that takes you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you touched on, the landscape now and NIL and the portal, like, and you talked about, working to build a program at Fresno. How difficult is that? You mentioned, um, you spearhead the recruiting side for the program too. Like, just take me through that, like maybe the difficulties and just maybe there's some positives too, and what that looks like as you and the staff look to bring people in, players in, and promote the program and try to show them what being a Bulldog is like. Just let's talk about the recruiting aspect, Courtnay.
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough that I was able to be elevated to recruiting coordinator this past year. So I'm going through my first like official portal season as recruiting coordinator. But
Yeah.
I mean, at this point with kind of the program that we've built, we have a lot of success in terms of just recruiting, and I think it's just like putting a puzzle together. There is a lot of negative, I think, when people talk about the portal at times, just because there are the mass number of kids that enter. But I think you gotta know that a lot of kids are making this decision when they're 16 years old, 17 years old, that they want to go to this school, and 2-3 years later they're a sophomore and they're like, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. Or you have kids that graduate early and just want something different. There's like the whole spectrum of kids that have gone in and go through coaching changes, things like that. And so I think it's made it difficult for us to kind of manage our team from year to year. You can't really be like, oh, this kid's a junior, they're going to be here another year, or this kid's going to be here for 4 years, because it kind of changes every year now. So I think the projection of that has kind of made it a little bit harder. But that being said, you can turn around your team pretty quickly now if you get lucky in the portal. So there's some positives, there's some challenges, but I think you just got to go with it and do the best that you can. And I think for us as a staff, we just try to make sure that we are bringing in good kids and try to fit the pieces that we have that are on our team moving forward. And that's the fun part as coach. You kind of get to figure out, okay, this kid could be really good in our system, or this kid might be really good and put up good numbers, but doesn't run the system that we run. So how does that translate? So it's a lot of work, but it's fun, and everyone's striving to win. So it's fun to kind of get pieces that you think can help do that.
Yeah, I like that. Well said. I know, others that we've talked to. It's like it's a different beast now, and how do you maintain winning year to year and success and growth in the program. So I think obviously you have a firsthand experience. Wise words. All right, put you on the spot. Who's going to win the tournament? Who do you like to who do you like to win this March Madness?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a diehard UConn fan since I was probably like
Nice.
6 years old. So yeah. I always pick UConn. I'm happy they're healthy. Obviously, Paige is a great player. I wouldn't mind. I mean, I think whoever wins the USC UConn game, if they obviously win their next games, I think I would say wins the championship. Now, we are lucky enough here at Fresno. We played USC and UCLA both this year. So I wouldn't mind if either of those teams won, just to say we played against the national champs.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, well I'm gonna go USC. They seem different in some sense this way. Yeah. Avery Howell is a friend of ours on the podcast, so a little bit of rooting for her, I think, too. But that UConn USC game will be definitely must see. And we talked about it before we recorded, but Michigan and Notre Dame are tipping off right about now, right? So cool matchup there for the Canadian content as well. Just talk about growing up, Courtnay. Like you talked, your dad was a coach, and I'm just curious how the game was really starting to take shape for you and come into your life, and why basketball? Maybe if you played other sports as well.
Yeah, actually, well, my first kind of sport was actually ice hockey. I did
Nice.
that my first when I don't know what it was, maybe 7. I don't
Yeah.
even know at this point, but I played it for a year, and then I got into basketball. My brother played, so I kind of wanted to do something different. And then I played basketball and soccer competitively. I actually played up in both age groups, and I kind of got to grade 9 and had to kind of make a decision because I couldn't keep playing winter and summer for both sports. And I chose basketball. I feel like I had better friends and I enjoyed it more. So that's kind of how I chose to really get into basketball. But I loved it. My dad obviously coached me for a very long time. And, I think just growing up in Ottawa, having to go to Toronto or Hamilton every weekend, I think I always kind of played with a chip on my shoulder in terms of just like we're just as good as them.
Right.
But yeah, I was taught really young age to be kind of well-rounded. I was tall for my age, but my dad thankfully didn't just put me in the post and say, pass her the ball. I got to bring up the ball, be a point guard, be a shooting guard, kind of do all the things throughout my kind of, young career into high school. And then high school got, pretty serious. And then obviously like Team Ontario, and then not so much with Team Canada when I was younger, but that kind of came once I had a successful freshman year at college. It was kind of when I got my first invite to anything related to Canada basketball. But I was just thankful that I grew up in a place, where I got to be challenged and play a lot of positions early. And I think that helped me. And I just loved it. Obviously, I played different sports growing up, but I loved it. I loved kind of the competitive and the team aspect of it. And yeah, it just kind of obviously took me really far and still taking me far.
No, I love it because like I'm an old hooper too, and I actually was like pretty good at soccer as well. And then I, um, really started picking up the basketball and kind of went a little far with that in terms of a little bit of college too. But it's a cool sport too, right? Like it's just just the lifestyle with it and everything too. That's what I love about the game too. And um, it's a great sport. So you are without a doubt the best basketball player in the family, right? Like your brother and your dad.
Yeah,
Better than your dad,
absolutely.
better than your brother.
I won't even hesitate.
Yeah.
I'm the best basketball player.
I love it. Take me through like, you go to Vermont, outstanding career there, a lot of success. Just, how do you make that decision and go there? I'm curious about other schools that were coming in the picture and just, options you had to weigh. Just take me through that whole recruiting process as a player.
Yeah, I think early on I like wanted to go to the States. Like there was nothing against like youth sports, obviously. I just think like I wanted a scholarship. I wanted to like the glitz, the glamour. Katie Riverin, who was a couple years ahead of me, went to Rice, and I just looked up to her. She was a local kid, and I wanted to have that and do all that. And I think in the time that I was coming out, like we couldn't even talk till like October 15th on the phone, I think. So it was like kind of a quick process once you got, phone calls, but I would say under recruited at this, like, I mean, now after, in hindsight, but, Vermont came into the picture a little bit later. I had some other schools that, they were like, we're interested, but they weren't really like, okay, like we want you right now. Like, let's, set up a visit kind of thing. And so I went on one other visit, to Monmouth in New Jersey, actually. And then I went to Vermont, for a visit, and I loved it. I honestly didn't love how close it was to home at the time. That was probably one of the negatives. But they had Canadian connections that had played there before. And I really, really enjoyed my visit in the campus. And, I think I was going back and forth a lot. Credit to my high school coach at the time. He listened to me just go back and forth for like a straight week of just like, okay, I have to make a decision. I have to let him know. And I just ultimately I felt like it was a place I could play. And I just had that gut feeling that it was for me. I think everyone says, like, you just kind of know when you're there. It's just scary to kind of just, commit at that point. But yeah, I'm thankful and, couldn't be happier that I made that decision and obviously had some really good success there.
Yeah, well, like I read an article, just you had said in that article how it was a perfect fit for you and a lot of success, over 1,900 points, I think, 800 rebounds, 600 assists, back-to-back conference titles, and first ever win in the NCAA tournament, which is super great. Obviously, big resume there. Talk about playing it. We've talked about the tournament and what were our picks today. Talk about playing in it as a player and just that experience and atmosphere.
Yeah, that's everybody's dream. That's everybody's goal. And so when we won it my sophomore year, like I was just like a kid in a candy store. Like I loved
Nice.
everything. I loved the media availability. We were playing UConn, like childhood favorite like team.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of like the best thing that I could have asked for. Now, did we want to be a 16 seed and play the number one team? No, but it was fun just to be able to experience it all. And then my senior year, we didn't want to be a 16 seed, so we played some really good teams in the non-conference. We built our resume up a little bit, and we're lucky enough to get a 10 seed. And so that was a little bit more fun in some ways because we felt like we had a chance. We felt like, okay, this is our time. We knew the history that we hadn't won a game in the tournament before, and there was some really successful teams, in our history. So that was super cool. And to get the win, like so much fun. There's ups and downs in every season. And it kind of just takes away every down, honestly. And then to play Notre Dame at Notre Dame was fun for about 15 minutes till they kind of blew the lead up. But it was fun. I was able to experience, what it takes. And, I was lucky enough to go there twice and not everyone gets to do that. So, I couldn't have asked, like I said, for a better script. I think looking back on it now, I've reflected on it a lot. If I kind of had gone somewhere different, maybe I would have had a lesser role. I don't think I make the national team. I don't think I get to go to the Olympics. Like there's a lot of things that I was just really happy that I got to experience. And like you said in that article, it was a perfect fit in terms of, me being able to develop as a player and accomplish everything I wanted.
Yeah, no, it's just cool to see like a clear impact it had for you, right? Beyond your career there, whether it was pro or national team, right? So I think that's good reflection. Just talk about going pro, Courtnay, and what that looked like. You finish up at Vermont. Take me through that process. What leagues you were looking at to start the pro journey.
Yeah, I think I wanted to play pro. I had gotten the invite for the national team, like cool, if you will, and try on
Yeah,
and again, I really didn't even know much about that at the time. I just was like, okay. And honestly, and a funny story is I was debating whether or not to play with Canada or play with Lithuania actually, because I had
yeah,
the opportunity where I could I had my Lithuanian passport. And so it was kind of one of those things that while I was starting my pro journey, I didn't even know which national team I was going to be on.
cool.
Just as I was kind of navigating that. But, I had some options. I wanted to go to the best league. And, I went to the Euro League and got to play against some of the best in the world. And I loved it. It was fun. And like I said, I kind of had the opportunity after playing 2 years in Lithuania to go to a different team in a different country, but then I also got the job at Vermont. And so I kind of had to weigh all those options.
Right.
But I loved the pro life. I knew it wasn't always going to be for me. I loved it, but just being away from home, and it also was a time where you had to like Skype and like you were trying to like figure out phone plans a little bit, and it wasn't as accessible in terms of communicating back home. But I knew I wanted to do it. I loved it. I loved playing the Euro League. And I think that was one thing that as my pro career started, I had the opportunity for that, or I had an opportunity for like a little bit lower league, but I probably could have had a bigger impact right away. But I wanted to kind of test myself against the best.
Yeah, I mean, like that's something that is tough for people, right? Where you go overseas and you're away from family a lot, and especially so many of our guests have done that, obviously, and you're trying to just obviously be a good pro, and then but you have family back home, and navigate. I think now it's like you said, it's a little easier, not only for communication, but just everyone has a better sense of what leagues are like overseas because more and more people have done it, so there's more of a track record with it. And at that time, like I wanted to ask you, especially on the women's side, there's always been such a commitment and I guess a responsibility for the players to, come back, play for the national team after a long season overseas. Like, um, I'm curious about that mindset, like in those discussions, maybe that you as a group and players, and obviously, to start a run of Olympic appearances in 2012 is really great for the program. Like, what was always that mindset for you and your teammates to, no matter what, this is happening, we're coming back, we're going to play, we're going to elevate the program despite, like I said, long seasons overseas. Maybe just touch on that and your approach with that.
Yeah, I think it's funny to kind of like think about it because I know that kind of discussion has happened, especially on the men's side of just like the commitment.
Yeah.
And I really honestly don't think we ever talked about it. It was just like the standard that was set, and
Yeah.
you never really had to be asked. Like we all wanted to, and we all wanted to, even though like again, we came straight from our pro leagues right into, two-a-days and, training camps and stuff like that and had minimal time off. But it was never a thing where anybody even like, I don't remember anyone complaining ever or even like talking about not wanting to do it. Like for me, there's so much pride to put on the Canada jersey. Like I would never say no.
Right.
And so I think, credit to the older players when I got there. Like it was just the standard. They embraced it. It was a positive thing. It was never like talked negatively about just kind of like the long days and the long kind of whole year that you went through.
Yeah.
And we at the time, like we were fighting to get back to the Olympics. And so that was like any of us, like all we ever wanted to kind of do and accomplish. So I think that was a really big motivating factor for everyone as well. But you never had to ask anybody twice if they were playing. So I think it was just honestly the standard, and there was no discussions.
No, I like others have said that, right? And I think, that's a true testament to, what everyone believed in. And, uh, conversations that I've had is like, look, they want to get back to the Olympics, like you said, start this run. The program has had a lot of success on the women's side and really sustainable. It's an interesting time for them now. Denise retired in the fall, and then Victor and Canada Basketball decided to part ways mutually, and so they're looking for a coach. So we'll see, what that looks like. Now there's a ton of talent, like we've talked about, coming up. Like the freshman class right now in the NCAA is ridiculous for Canada, so it bodes well. But yeah, I appreciate that. I think I don't think it's gotten lost on our listeners for by any means. Like people are aware, but it maybe doesn't get highlighted enough. And hopefully people do respect the sacrifice because it took a lot to do that. And like you said, others have said the same thing, Courtney, where they don't really remember it being a topic point, but it just got done, right? Like this is happening, right? So I think that needs to be celebrated. I wanted to, you talked about playing for Canada, and we love to talk about Canada basketball here, and 2012 Olympian, just playing for the country, wearing the red and white. Just take me through that and what that means to you and your family.
Yeah, again, like my journey, I was never like, I was like always on the cusp of being like a good player in like Ontario and Canada coming up through the ranks. But I never really got a ton of invites initially.
Right.
Even with like at the time Center for Performance, I did that for a year, but I kind of was like underrated in from my view. And I had to kind of prove myself. So for me, the journey of like getting just, my freshman year, getting an invite to go play for the junior team after, my freshman year at Vermont, even through the like youth teams, I didn't play a ton. And just continuing to have to like fight and fight, and get, earn my spot. I think that it kind of culminated when I got to play for the senior team, and not many people I think thought I was going to make it right out of college. And so for me, like that sense of pride, that is like the ultimate thing. Like that's what I was working for. I
Right.
never really felt like it was a given for me to be able to do that. And obviously, who wouldn't, who doesn't have goals to play in the Olympics and stuff like that. And so for me, like every chance I got to play, like I really tried to embrace it. Now, when I was younger and not playing and all that stuff, like you were always like constant, like, okay, like, am I going to make it? Am I good enough? Things like that. But once I kind of made the senior team, I started to really believe in myself a little bit more, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I loved it. I loved being able to travel the world. I loved being able to represent Canada. And, there's no better feeling than putting the jersey on and, being able to, make it to the Olympics, especially with that group. And I reference that group a lot. We didn't all love each other off the court, and we all had to sacrifice a lot of things, and we all were the best players. And, we had this goal of making it to the Olympics, and all of our sacrifice and hard work and dedication paid off. And it paid off in like the most dramatic way of being the last team on Canada Day to make it. Like you couldn't have written a better script.
Right.
And just being able to come together as a group and really put everybody's, personal agendas like aside, and everybody fully 100% bought in it was one of the best experiences. And then obviously playing, at the Olympics, and then playing, at Worlds and stuff like that. Like there's so much pride hearing the anthem. Like it's hard to explain. All I can say is that it's just every time is special, and you never really get tired of it.
No, well said. I mean, to punch the ticket to London 2012, you had a game high 21 in that qualification, team MVP. So, you kind of talked about, am I good enough? Maybe lack of minutes, and then you help the team get it done, right? Big time performance. So I think, others I've talked to, Courtney, like have referenced you, like, in a sense, like she was a big part of those teams, big part of the program at the time. Doesn't get enough recognition, maybe a little underrated, like you said. So, but you produced when you needed to help, the team qualify. You talk about London being an Olympian. Just take me through that. Like, I'm curious about the balance. You're there, you want to experience the Olympic Games, but there's a goal at hand too. You got to compete, and prepare as best you can. Just take me through the whole experience of just being an Olympian and the whole atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really happy that social media wasn't as big as it was. Like we
Right.
still had it, but I think that would have made it even more difficult, just to navigate it all. And I think our coaches did a fantastic job at the time of just being, like this is a vacation and excitement for your family.
Yeah.
It's a business trip for us, and how to balance that. And I think Teresa Gabriel did a great job. She was the only Olympian on our team at the time, and she was a really good resource of just like, this is the time that you can take to like soak it in and enjoy it. And then this is the time you have to kind of like lock in. And for us, it was such excitement from, July 1 to kind of not even know we're going to then go, a month later. And so there was so much excitement and like media requests and things like that kind of went in between from qualifying to us like actually getting there. And so we did a good job of balancing it. I think, like I said, you can't really prepare for it. Like if you've never been there, you can't prepare for it. And I think, my family especially did a great job of kind of just letting me be. And also, if we had opportunities to see each other while the competition was happening, we were able to. And I think the biggest thing that I loved and was so happy for and thankful for my coaches, was being able to participate in the opening ceremonies. We had a game the next day, but we were able to kind of just do a lap and then, go back. But that day's long.
Yeah.
And so I don't think a lot of people understand, like, you're standing for hours. You're not really like just walking up to the stadium and doing a lap and leaving. Like it's a big time commitment, and we had an early game. And I'm thankful that the coaches made the decision to allow us to do that, because that's something that I will never forget. Like, you will never forget walking into the stadium, hearing like Team Canada and like everybody there, and just being able to soak that up was, one of the best memories of my life. So really happy. But again, that goes to the balance that we had of, we're going to enjoy it, but we're also here to win games. And so I think that, we did a good job while we were competing of kind of staying the course.
Yeah, no, it's I would imagine it's difficult, right? And that's a big deal to do this opening ceremonies. I think, like if I remember in Paris, like I don't think the men and the women were able to do it.
I don't think they did it either.
Yeah, and so like I always see that, and I'm like, you're kind of disappointed for them, because I think that would be a cool thing, but they're trying to keep the business side at hand, in front of them. Do you keep tabs on the program pretty closely still? Like obviously we talked about transition phase for the women's side right now a little bit, but being an alumni, and just, are you always kind of tracking it? And obviously, like I mentioned, the freshman class right now is on fire for the Canadian women, and some of them have already played for the national team at the senior level. Just do you keep a close eye on it still?
I try to. I'm lucky enough, obviously, in my job, that I get to see, like, especially you talk about the freshman class. Like, I got to see them on the circuits in the summer.
Yeah.
And we have a kid on our team that played with them. And so I was able to kind of, see them firsthand a little bit.
Yeah.
And so exciting that they're doing, big things. They're, their first years in college. And anytime like I was up, watching the Olympics, watching it, like I'm definitely tuned in. So I love to see it. I love to see kind of the growth, and like you said, they've done a really good job since we, got back in 2012, and the expectations are high, but that's because they've earned it. So I think that that's something that is always exciting. I know they were, not too happy with kind of how the last, round went a little bit, but I know there's some really dedicated players and people in the program that are willing to get it to where, we all know it can be. And it's so hard. I think it's easy to sit back and be like, you have all these kids, you have this, you have that, like you guys should, be there. But it's like every team is fighting for their lives, and there's not always the time for us to have all the training camp time. And, again, there's a little bit more than there was when I was there, but it's still just like piecing people together, coming from the WNBA to where, pro teams, like it's hard to, and then you got to hope everyone's healthy. And so, I know there's a lot of challenges, but I'm always tuned in and always cheering.
Love it. Is there, a player today that you really enjoy watching, someone that stands out that you think, wow, yeah, they're super great or super special? Anybody come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I can only talk about the ones that aren't in the NCAA. But I think Bridget Carlton, she's done a great job. I think she's kind of ready she has taken on the burden of, being a scorer and a leader. But now that like Anatachan was gone and things like that, and as they head in a new direction with whoever they end up hiring, I think she's somebody that can be a great leader for the younger kids, but also still in her prime and doing a great thing. But it's always fun to watch her. I love shooters, so it's fun to watch her. And just the way she competes on both ends.
Yeah, no, she's kind of become the best player in my opinion. And the last couple seasons they kind of went as far as maybe BC would take them. And she's played a ton of basketball. Like I think about overseas and then obviously in the W and then like national team. Like I don't see her getting a lot of rest. Like that kind of speaks to the whole sacrifice and commitment. But she continues to show up and which has been impressive. Who did you grow close with from your time with the senior national team? Maybe a player that you didn't know that well until you got together at camp. Is there teammates that you're still really close with and forged a good friendship with?
Yeah, I think as we all get a little bit older and are doing our own thing, you kind of don't get to see each other as often. But I still talk to Shona and Kim a little bit. And then I was really close with Krista Phillips when we were playing. And so we were kind of the two that were like the newbies. And so we kind of forged a really good friendship during that time. And then it was really funny. Like I don't talk to Kia a lot, but I'm always watching from far. But she was the young one when I was, kind of on my way out. But they put me with her because I, in the rooms because I dealt with, college kids, and I was like, they're like, you can, like, you can, what they're talking about, all these things. So I always kind of am happy that I got to see Kia in her, in her beginning stages, and she's obviously done phenomenal things for the program and in her professional career. So I always again, I don't talk to her a ton, but I always have fond memories of her when she was, 16, baby Kia.
Yeah. So. Yeah, no, she's man, like really iconic for the program and the game in Canada. And we see her on the Raptors broadcast all the time up here, right? So really outstanding career. Okay, Courtnay, who is your top 5 or favorite 5 of all time for Canada basketball?
This is a hard one because
yeah,
I feel like I just end up picking with my heart a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay.
I don't know. Obviously there's more than 5, I think.
Yeah.
I think Sylvia Sweeney, obviously don't really know her, but I think she is obviously one that kind of led the charge prior to my time. Being MVP of a world is hard to do. So I think she probably is on there. I would put, I'm a huge Steve Nash fan, so I'm gonna just mix up the genders here. But
that's my guy.
Yeah, I loved him. I loved kind of watching him play, and so I think he's somebody that I kind of always looked up to, and he obviously did a great job for Canada. And then I would say, let's see, I'd have to put Kim Gaucher on there. She was a big mentor to me in terms of just she was the standard, and did some really great things and played for a very long time, and obviously is doing some really good things. And having a kid and being able to play and kind of spearhead that, I think that's just remarkable. So I think I would add her. Bev Smith, I think obviously a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
She coached me a little bit with the national team program, but she and herself is a legend. So you got to put her on there. And then, I'm going to put Teresa Gabriel for the same fact of she was the only Olympic holdover. She gave so many years to the program. I think that, she doesn't get talked about enough. And she stuck around to, help us get to 2012 when she easily could have retired. She could have, started her family, all that stuff. And so I think she was a really good piece for me, especially of just kind of she showed what it took day in, day out to, be the best representation of, Canada basketball, and helped us, like I said, when we did make it to London. She was one that kind of had been there, done that, and she had been through everything leading up to that just to get back there. So I think I think I put her in there just because she's done a lot that not a lot of people would know about, but she, like you said, like spearheaded kind of this movement. Like if it wasn't for her sticking around, do we make it to 2012? I don't know. So I think that's kind of got to give her credit.
Oh, no, I mean, like Great Five, full of legends and icons, and obviously on the women's side, like Bev's been mentioned before, and Sylvia too, and Teresa too. Like that's the program doesn't get to high levels without those players, right? It's great that you recognize that, and yeah, it is a tough question. I
know. I'm like, can I do honorable mentions? Like
you could do whatever. Yeah, it's like. Listen,
I mean, I think you got to put Nat Achano in there.
Yeah.
Obviously a teammate of mine, but nobody else has made it to 4 Olympics and what she's done and what she continues to do for the sport. So I think she's somebody that, in 10 years, people are going to really look back and say like she was a huge part of it. I think they say that now, obviously, but she's somebody that just recently obviously retired. So there's so many, like, again, I mean, I would list all my teammates, but
no,
you can't. And I think the men have some. Obviously, there's a lot of promise around them. But I also think you gotta earn it a little bit and do it back-to-back years or back-to-back cycles kind of thing. And I think they're on the upward, but I think you got to put the ones that have done it at that level for a little bit longer ahead of them right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a tough question. I do enjoy asking it. And I try to, give the guest time to think about it when we connect. But yeah, it'll be an interesting time, I think, on the men's side, like you said. Like, let's get another cycle in, see where this can really go. There was a lot of expectation in Paris, and the competition is getting harder and harder. It's crazy how much everyone is improving around the world. As much as we think, like Canada basketball is so much better now, and looking like, well, so is everyone else too, right? So it's difficult. Who should join us on Canada Hoops, Courtney? Who's got a good Canada basketball story that should pull up and share it with us?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. Have you had Shona on here?
No, I haven't had Shona.
She's got all the stories. She has. I mean, she's lived everywhere. She's obviously still coaching in Europe.
We'll try to make that happen.
I don't know. I mean, we all have great stories that I know there's been a couple that have been on here.
Okay, we'll work on that. Maybe you can help me connect with her.
I mean, there's a lot.
I'd have to look at the messages. Maybe I have messaged her. I'd have to.
Yeah, you just got to keep messaging people and getting their attention and getting a time that works for them.
Any shout outs or thank yous before I get you out of here? And again, truly appreciate this, and it's been a lot of fun.
I mean, I appreciate being on here. I love talking about Canada basketball. I love talking about kind of the journey I've been on, and blessed and so thankful that I've been on there. I don't know. Have you had the Plouffe sisters on here?
Yeah, so I live in Calgary, and so with the whole Michelle, Catherine, I'm thinking about the page too for the 3x3. No, I've been very fortunate over the last few years. Like, everyone's been so great and willing to join us. So it's maybe that question's it's getting maybe a little harder to answer.
I'm like trying to think of who
harder for your guest to answer, but it's but the women, shout out to women, man. Like, they always are always so gracious, like, and willing to do it, and I do appreciate that. So hopefully people watch this on YouTube or have a listen and just understand, like, I am truly grateful. I do appreciate that, because it's obviously an important part of the program, and I want to always share that and have guests share that side with us too. So
Yeah, I mean, there's
well,
so many stories to be told,
yeah,
and I think it's great that you take such interest and want to share people's stories, and it's always fun to reminisce for me at least. Like
yeah,
I'm a little far out of it now, but I always look back, and it's always fun. Especially like Canada Day will never be the same for me. I'll
yeah.
always have a memory. So yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And,
Well, maybe we'll throw your name in the head coach hat for the national team, right? I'll make some
yeah,
calls. I'll make some calls. I got the CEO on text. I mean,
yeah.
uh,
So.
how cool would that be? That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean that would be pretty cool. I mean, again, like you say, you
Yeah.
never really say no to Canada,
No,
and being able to represent your country.
no, we do. We do appreciate you taking the time to join us, Courtnay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's a wrap on another episode of Canada Hoops. I want to thank Courtnay Pilyapaitis for pulling up. Thank you for listening. Remember to rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. Check out our YouTube channel. Hit us up on Instagram and X.com. Keep supporting Canada basketball, and we will see you on the next episode.